Hey folks, welcome back to another part of my tutorial on CSS. I think this will be one prior to the last module on this CSS tutorials. In the past, I've covered C++, I've covered HTML. I got one more part, besides this part, I got one more on CSS to cover just a few more things that I think were of interest. And then I'm going to probably jump into JavaScript. Eventually, I want to do PHP as well. So yeah, if you follow the tutorials, I'll help you put all your computing together. So in this part today, we're going to be talking about lists, tables, icons, and menus. So we should be able to, at the end of this tutorial, through examples, do different types of lists, different types of menus, tables, include some icons, and so on and so forth. So I hope you enjoy it. I got a bunch of examples to go with, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, folks. So I have basically about 13 examples. Yeah, I think 13 examples. Again, in the interest of time, I pre-typed these examples and I have a screen on my left. I'm using Microsoft Explorer. I'm sorry, I'm so struggling with the old name. It's Microsoft Edge. I'm sorry, Microsoft, it's Edge. And so what I have here is basically a simple list example. Here's the head of my HTML file with the title. It's called list. And then I have a table. I made a border of 1. The only reason I put this border is so that I can see the border around each one of the lists. And I have an order list with a type 1, capital A, lowercase a, capital I, and lowercase I for the Roman numerals. And then, of course, I have an unordered list. And if this looks a little confusing, don't worry. I can break it down like this. So we'll make the screen go bigger. And that like that, and that like that. And you may be asking, why is it doing this? Like this. It's the same. It's just so you can see that it's going inside. Here's my definition list. And again, I could do tr, the table, and the body. So there, it's more formatted. As you know, in HTML, doesn't matter, but this looks a little bit better only for training purposes. In real life, they don't actually do this. So what does it look like? Well, the unordered list, which is the first one here, is actually this. I'm sorry, order list. This one here is this here. The type format 1, 1, 2, 3. If it's type capital A, ABC, or lowercase ABC, and then the Roman numerals 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. So these are the different types on my OLI. Again, I'm not using CSS here, basically, right? All I'm doing is showing what a list looks like. My unordered list, and look how it's in the center, and there's no formatting whatsoever. So here's my Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. You can see the little covered, the fill circle, just the little circle, white circle, and then the little square. That's why this is down. And then I have my definition, my DTs and my DDs, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So this is what lists look like when you don't put any CSS in place. It will do the job. Obviously, these are elements of HTML. I can always make them links because on a lot of the examples you see that they're links, but very plain. There's no color, there's nothing, right? So let's go ahead and go to unorder. Here we go. An unordered list. Now we're going to be using a little bit of CSS. Now, the first thing I do here is unordered list, a UL, and I'm telling it, look, the list style type, make it none. What does this do? Well, I'm getting rid of the little the little dot, right? Unordered list, it makes this little dot right here. In this example, I'm getting rid of it. That's what this means. List type none. Um, Padding. I'm going to do this here like that just so you can see what it's doing. Padding and then margin. And so I'm making the padding and the margin 0. Remember, the padding is the distance between the content and the margin. And of course, then we have the margin. By making it 0, I'm getting rid of all the extra space in the layout, right? Now I'm telling, this is something that you probably haven't seen before, but here it is for my list item. And I'm doing these little dots here before. So basically, before I call in the li command, make the content equal this, and I put this little clown face in there. When I go back here, the same border one, the width is 100%. All that does is, the table is 100%. It's the size of the width. And I got my unordered list here. I'm going to do this like this. So you can see basically, what the unordered list looks like. Now, remember, in my first example, this is what it looked like. Dot, 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 right? Here, I got this little clown faces. Instead of dots, I have a clown face. So to do that again, you get rid of the type, you get rid of your paddings and margins. I could use padding and margins, by the way. I just decided to do 0. But this is the main command here, right here. This is what's important. The before, I'm changing the content to that icon. And I can do any icon. If I was to do, I'm going to do a little heart. I'm going to save it. And when I do a refresh, boom, it puts a little hearts. See? No problem. Can I do spacings in here? Because I said, yeah, I can do spacings. I can do file, save, and refresh. And there's a little space. Yes, so it doesn't look so crowded. Of course, I could have changed these guys over here, right? Obviously. Now let's go to unordered list. But notice I got some different stuff here. I'm going to go to the example. This is what it looks like. I have a clown face, a heart, and then a blue sick face for each one of the days. What have I done different? The style for UL is the same. Here's my list style to none. Obviously, first thing I got to do is get rid of the little black circle. And there's my margins and paddings to 0. No big deal. The difference here is this. Now, I mentioned the before. The before is needed to what icon am I going to use? The clown face, the heart, the blue face. What is different here is this. NTH dash, and then we have child 1, 2, and 3. What does it mean? Well, in CSS, you can select a specific item, and this works for tables, for lists, and you tell it, and it's so cool because you can do the child last, child even, child odds, or put a number, child 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, and 7, you name it. And what CSS is going to do is like, look, when you get to this item number, then do this. So for the first child, for child 1, make that clown face, and there it is. For the second one, make the heart, and there's the heart. And for the third, make that blue sick face, and there it is. So that's what the NTH child does in an unordered list, and it'll do on many others. You'll see in next examples. All right, let's go to example number 4, and that looks like this. Now, notice this is an unordered list. Again, the same, but look what it does here. See, as I'm hover, H-O-V-E-R, the mouse through the options, it acts like a menu. If you think about it, look at this. They expand the line and it changes colors. But I got this 1, 2, and 3. So let's look at what we're doing here. First of all, I changed the font. This font here is not your regular font. It's not your regular font that you use. I downloaded a font with font Google. Was called Poet 1. I don't know how to say that. So that's this command here is used to download a font that is not otherwise available in your um, websites. And you can, I'm gonna do some fonts later in today's tutorial, so I'll explain how that works. But just for now, remember, this is how we import a file, and then we can use it from there on. We can use it. I'm doing a, these are all my CSS commands, or my classes, if you will. These are my classes. First of all, I'm saying for the class A, the width is 400 pixels and the margin is 0 and automatic. So that's the size of this. So no matter how big this is, you notice that the list doesn't change in size. That's number one. I'm saying for the order list, this is for my whole class. Now, specifically for my order list, now I'm going to I'm going to split this in a way that makes a little more sense. I'm not doing anything. I'm not changing anything at this point. That's the first thing I'm going to do for my order list. I'm doing a count reset to LI. So I'm resetting to 1, 2, and 3. The list style to none. Remember, this is very important, so we can get rid of those numbers and letters and circles and what have you. Then I'm using the asterisk here, so they're all going to be of type decimal. I'm making them 15 pixels in size, and I'm using, here's the font. Remember the font from Google over here? There it is. And changing my padding and then my margin bottom, and I'm using EM, so it's proportional, right? It's proportional. I'm also doing this here. This, you haven't seen this, but I'm doing a margin of 0, 0, 0 and 2 EM to OL and OL. So you will see here now. Let me change this guy so it makes more sense. And all I'm doing this is putting it in a way that you can read it. Nothing else. All right, so for my A, what is the A? Well, that we know that's a link, right? That's for my active links. I'm changing the position to relative, making it block. I'm changing the paddings, proportional to all sizes. I'm doing all of these. And I'm changing the background color, using green, black for the text color. Now look at this. See how it changes the colors? That's what all these are. You know, text direction to 0. Okay, for that. When you hover over, this is the gray color that you see here. When I go here and it changes to gray, that's this gray right there. And of course, text declaration to nothing. Again, we don't want the underline. Remember, the text decoration to none gets rid of the underline on a link. And then before anything happens, I'm resetting my counters and incrementing by that number. You can't really tell it here, but basically what this is doing is saying if you're going to go from 1, go to 2, go to 3. If you were to do 0, 1, it would be to 0, 2, 0, 3, and so on. That's what that increment counter and counter LI does. We have our position is absolute. So no matter what the size of my screen is, see, it always stays in the center. It's absolute to the center. Then we have the margins, my heights, and my font weight, making it bold right there. And the border radius. The border radius, as you recall, is to make these circled boxes as opposed to square boxes. They're circled boxes. And here on order list is in blue. That's because of this right here on order in blue. Then my class A is for the list items that applies over here. Now, what does this do? Why do I want to do it like this? Imagine I have different order lists and I want to do them in different styles. Well, by using the classes, I can do different classes to different things, right? So that's why I'm doing it like that. This is another example. This one, look at this one. This is long. I'm gonna go through most of it, I hope. Here we go. Here I got two or unordered list examples, 1 and 2. Remember, when I just mentioned that I use the class A, well, here I got class A and class B. I'm using two fonts. I'm adding the font Tangerine in addition to the Poet 1. And here's my style 1, here's my style 2. The links are the same on the bottom. I'm just changing the class B to class A. So this part here, I don't need to explain it, I don't think so. I mean, here's my div class. Here's my links with the A, hrefs, and you know, this looks a little crowded here. Look, it's not that crowded. I'm gonna go ahead and put it the way that you normally would see this. That goes there, and that goes there. So there, see, so now is my order list, and see, now they look more, not the same. This is the same, okay? It's just I typed it all in one. So the style one is the same as the other one. Here's my style. It doesn't change from the previous example to this. I'm using style A, nothing. What changes is the second one. Now you notice when I hover over this little teal color shows up on the link. You also notice the font is different, and then you got the numbers are in an angle, if you will, at a certain angle. So let's go over the B style. So my width is 410 pixels with a margin of 0 and automatic. For my order list, obviously I got my list style type to none. So I want to do that. I changed it to decimal as well. I got my margins, my margin left, my padding, my counter reset to LI counter. Remember, that's needed for the list. So far, it's the same as the other one. Both of them do work very similar. This one here is actually a little different. So I'm going to go ahead and separate this like that. You see my orange red color. I like orange red, by the way. That's my orange red right there. So for my every list item, I'm making them relative to the position where they are, right? And doing my padding to 0.5 EMs. My background color is orange red, which is that. And now here's my for my active links, I'm making the color black. That's the text color. Look at that color is black. The font size 15px, and I'm using Tangerine. So this font color and font style and size is that one line. Here's the big one, hover. This is one big one here. Box shadow, number 1, inset -1 EM 0, and then this is a color teal. Now look what happens here. See that color, how it changes? That little color right there. That is this. I'm sorry, this, the hover. When I hover over, see, it changes. It makes that little box, and it's inset. Inset means the shadow is towards inside of the element. Normally we do, everybody associates with text shadows outside. Well, if you do an inset, means don't do it outside, go the opposite, go inside. And then another command you've seen that you have not seen is this called transition. The back shadows is 0.5 seconds. Believe it or not, it takes 0.5 seconds to do the transition from 0 to the length of the box. That is what transition does. It's like a little, not a timer, it's more of a counter, like, hey, take this time to do this. Now here for this, I do that before. I got my positions. I've seen this before, my line heights and all that. Look at this. This is the before. Okay, this part right here is for the numbers. Okay, so I'm gonna do position is absolute. No matter what, I want the position to be in the beginning. The top, notice how I'm going negative 0.3 EMs. And the reason for that is because it's going inside. Okay, so there's my numbers. I had to play with these guys to get it where I wanted, by the way. 'Cause you change the font size or the font style, you got to modify these numbers. Okay, I'm telling you that right now. If you go and you want to experiment with this and you change the font, you don't want to use Google fonts because you think this font's too ugly, no problem. But you're going to have to modify these guys here. Other than that, you're free to do what you want. The line height is 1.2, which is more than your regular. Remember, 1 to 1 is, or 1.0 is your normal line height. And I did it 1.2. Obviously, it's bold and it's centered. It's yellow. You notice how this is center to the box, and it's yellow and it's bold. And then your background color. Now, here is how we get that number to be sideways. I'm gonna, as soon as I finish this, uh, the the counter that we remember those are needed for the numbers, but the overflow hidden, that means if it goes over, if it was a number 255, you just wouldn't see it. Okay. All right. So this is the big one here. Uh, transform, rotate -20 degrees. Let's say I do 40 degrees. Let's say I do that. When I save it, and I'm gonna go over here and refresh it. See, it made it 40 degrees instead of 20 degrees. You can see the change right away. How useful is this? Well, it's more of a something just to show you the potential that this that you can do with list more than anything. I don't know if this is something that will be very practical to do. This one maybe, this one I don't know, but there it is. That's how you do this. All right. So that's for the list. Pretty cool things you can do. Again, uh, there's so many elements here, but the elements are the same for the list in HTML. Remember, CSS only alters the elements before, after, during. With the before is before, after is after, transition is during, and you have all your the box model, which was discussed in part 1 of the tutorial, where we have our margins. Again, I'm not using any new other than the ones I explained. I'm not using anything new. It's just how creative you can get. You got to really practice this and play with it and then start adjusting. Again, if you change the font, change the size, you got to start, maybe the numbers will be looking kind of funny in here. Well, you got to start playing with the widths and the heights and so on. But you will get it. Trust me, you'll get it. You're just not going to get it right away. All right, basic table. So a basic table looks like this. I got basic table right there. My employee city, phone number. I got 3 names, 3 cities, and 3 phone numbers. And I put a border of 1, which is right here. That's what you can do in HTML. You can do a table. And there's a little more to it. You can obviously do call spans and row spans and make it a little fancy. But without using CSS, you're not going to get away from that look and feel. Let's alter it a little. And before I click on it, there's going to be a little surprise. First of all, I'm using the font name Assistant right there from Google, free. And then I'm going to make my table. I'm going to have it use the font Assistant. I'm also, for the table header, I'm going to change the alignment to centered. Actually, I'll do that right there and that right there. So what I'm saying, look, for my table in general, I want to use assistant. I want it to be 100%. But for the table header specifically, here's my padding for the top and bottom. So I want a little bit of spacing between it. I want to align the text only for the header. I want to change the background color to green and the color of the text to white. That's what I want to do. And I'm using the same table, except now I'm using the style text align center for the table. That table is, oh, I'm sorry, for the header. I'm centering this title. And I'm using my table, which is the definitions that I've done. So I'm going to click here, and there it is. I've centered my basic table. I changed the color. Here's the color of my table header, green and white, which is this green and white. I centered this three. The other ones are not centered. The rest of it looks the same. So this here, again, assistant is name of the font that I'm using on the table. And I made some space. You see the space right here and right there? That's the padding. Padding on top and bottom, and I'm centering the table headers. The rest of the text looks the same. So that's the beginning of my table CSS. So it's starting to look already looks a real, nice. Let's go ahead and go to table 2. Again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm not changing what I'm doing. I'm adding to the table. Okay, I already did the table header, which was this here. It looks a little different, but let me put it in a way that makes more sense here. Yeah, that's something like that. So I'm making my table font assistant with board width of 100% and the borders collapse. I want to collapse the border. Then I'm going to do a border, and the border will be gray in color with the padding on 8 pixels. Now, look at this right here. Remember I mentioned the child. Look at this right here, nth child even. This means that on the even items, remember we've been working with lists and now I'm on tables, but there's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and so on. Well, the ones that are even 1, 3, 5, 7, I want it to change the background of the color to white. Also, when I'm hovering over, I want you to change the color to bisque. That's it. And then this here, the table header, I left it the same way. There's my green and white, okay? This stays in the bottom. Now look what it looks like here. Again, here's my table header with the green and white. That's this right there, my basic table. The thing here, look at how it changes in colors. There's 2 things that are added to the code. The nth child even, change the color to white. So the color of the table is different. That's the white, and that's the bisque, and that's the green. Okay, so the table itself is this color, but I'm saying, look, on the even ones, make them white, and that's this one. It starts with a 0, by the way. Every time starts with a 0, 1, 2, and so on. So this gives it a little bit of a contrast. And also you notice as I'm hovering over, it changes the color to bisque, bisque, however you say it, bisque. Here it is. That is, it's not selecting. There's no links on this. There's no links. This is the hover effect, H-O-V-E-R, hover effect. And for the hover effect right there, I'm telling it, look, when I'm hovering over, do this. That's what this is. For the nth child even, change the color, and is this. So you can see how our table has dramatically improved. We went from that to that to that. So it's pretty awesome. All right. The next example I have now, it's on icons. Now, icons is actually an extension of fonts. I'm going to say it like that, an extension of fonts. But the reason I didn't include it with fonts is because every different provider of icons out there allows the access to the free icons in a different way. So here's an example of Font Awesome. Font Awesome is a provider of free fonts. The cool thing about Font Awesome is you can see they're moving. See, they're rotating, 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 rotating. For Font Awesome to work, you got to go to fontawesome.com, and they give you the examples. I'm not making this up. I copied this, okay? I went to Font Awesome. I created a free account that you can do with your email. You're not gonna get spam or anything like that. It's free, and they'll give you a unique code, I believe. And in my case, it was this number over here. That was my thing. Okay, so this script here is provided by them. I didn't make this up. They gave it to me when I registered. Say, hey, look, include this, and from there on, I went over here and I added my icons that I wanted. So again, I didn't make this up for Font Awesome. They provided me, this is the class FA3X. This is them right here. When you go to Font Awesome, you can preview all of the icons. And for each little icon, they give you the code that you can paste into your web page to get this icon to work. So, and the same goes for all of them, by the way. Google Icons, which is the second, is an extension of Google Fonts, literally. Okay. Again, they give you the link that you should have, which is in this case this, and then you can start using it as I'm doing over here. With the names, check circle or setting, whatever. And that's these right here. These are the icons provided by Google. By the way, they got thousands of icons. I'm only going to include like 6 of each. I didn't want to put all of them in there, but they give you the link item that needs to go in your title, on your script, and then they give you how to include it in your. I'm not. This material here, by the way, in this particular example, is not mine at all. I copied it from them because they give you that code. They tell you type this. For the third one, I'm using Max CDN. And if you look at this here, CDN, jsdeliver.net, and then Bootstrap 915. So you gotta type this here for it to work. Then in the bottom, you have these classes, and you get all this. I have a PlayStation. I got 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm sorry, I got Windows, and at the end I got PlayStation. And again, if you go to icons, get bootstrap.com and then pound icons, you get all of the different icons they got. They got hundreds, if not thousands, of icons, and they give you the code that you need for the icons to show up properly in your web page. I did not make up any of this code. I copied it straight from the 3, and there are many more icon sites out there. I just wanted to put it out there. Again, I didn't want to include it with the fonts because I don't want you to think it's the same as fonts. There's many providers of icons, and each one has a different way of allowing you access to them. So these are 3. Go to their websites. The links are on the screen, and enjoy it. All right, menus. Let's go to my menus, and this is a drop-down menu. If I hover over the word drop-down, then they show up, and each one is a link. I can go, this, and then go back, okay? So I can go to CNN, and there's a CNN. So it's a drop-down menu. You notice how many people think that to do menus, that drop-down menus, you need JavaScript and a program and assembly language, I don't know, all these different things. And this is CSS, nothing else. So here's how it works. Let's go here. I have a class called dropdown, and there's a button. The button uses drop button class. So there's actually 2 classes. And then I have my dropdown content. Okay, so how does that work? Let's start with the button. My background is dark green on white. I have my padding 16 pixels, my font size border to none, cursor is a pointer. So when I'm here, you notice how it went, that the mouse goes from an arrow to a finger pointing. That is that right there. The cursor pointer changes to a little hand. That's what that drop button does. And this only affects the button. Now we got drop down. Drop down makes the position relative and inline block. There's your block, and it's inline. And then when I do that, it creates this other box. See, there's nothing here, and now there is. Now I can go down. Um, in this drop down, within this drop down, I should say, but inside we have drop down content. We have no display, position is absolute, background color is white. See, there's nothing here, right? I'm creating a window. Think of like a window where eventually the material will go. See, there's nothing, and then now you got something. Uh, and then you got a box shadow. Um, and my C index to 1. And C index, by the way, is the position relative to the elements on the screen. All right. Then I have my text section run because they're links, but I didn't want to see the underlines. So I can just click on them and then do that. Here's the main part. I mean, you need the whole thing for this to work, but the content hover, I made it white. That means when I click on it, it goes to white color. Hover and then content displays to block, and then for the button it goes to dark green. So to make this kind of a menu, you make these classes and voila, you got yourself a nice little menu. Let's go to a second type of menu. That is the vertical menu. In this menu, and look at the example, see how when it changes the cursor to the little hand, it's a pointer, it's called a pointer. And as I'm going up and down, it hovers over the background color changes in their links. Obviously, you can go to CNN and then go back, right? So, all right. So how does this work? Very similar to the other one. None of this is changed. And here, instead of making classes, we're altering the elements. The unordered list. This is an actual list, unordered list. Of course, I'm making the type of none. But unlike the other examples where we put, clown faces and hearts and all that, I'm just not putting anything. I'm just saying, look, make it 200 pixels width, get rid of the margins, make it none, change the color to white, and put a border on it. So that's the first thing it does. Notice how the text color is black, but when I hover over is white. That's this right there. Then I'm saying for the item, that's for the what do you call it? The link, right? When I'm doing the align by itself, align center, border 1 pixel, and that's around. When it's active, change the background color to a little darker gray, green. And this one doesn't do that because I got rid of that one option. I'm not using the active, by the way. I could get rid of this. In fact, I am going to get rid of that because I'm not using it. There. And just to prove it, I'll refresh. And so there it is. It's not doing that. I'm not using active, but it doesn't affect to leave it there either. So I'm just going to leave it alone. However, look at this is new. This is something that I've not used, but I'm using it now. Hover not active. So I'm basically saying when it's not active, you change the color to that color right there. Text color is white, and this is a dark gray. And hover over something that is not active. I'm hovering over, not when it's active, I'm hovering over something that is not active. So I'm changing the color. See how it changes the color to dark gray and the text color to white as opposed to black, which is the default. Is black and then it goes to white. That's what this command here does. When I'm hovering over something that is not active, do the following. And that's how this menu works. Oh, we're almost done, guys. Menu 12 is this. Now, this is a side menu. Look how I have the word main menu. Remember on the previous menu, I said I'm not using the word I'm not using the active. In this case, I am. Main menu is active, by the way. And then here's my menu changing. A vertical menu. And I got side text over here. Look, this changes all the time. But here's my menu. My menu doesn't change no matter what I do. Let me resize this to see. See, I can do all these things, but the menu remains. Okay. So again, I'm sticking with my elements, ULs, and then my unordered list. Obviously, I make it to none. My margins, my paddings, 0. Width. Notice how the width is 25%. 25% of what? 25% of the screen. 25% of the screen. No matter what the screen size is, that menu is going to be 25%. And if it doesn't fit, in this case, it does. It would what do you call it? Move the text, wrap it. I should say that word, wrap it. So the overflow is automatic. So but it's not needed in this case. The position is fixed. And okay, so the position is fixed, and the two things that really matter about this one is 25%. When for my links, obviously display block, paddings, text decoration to none, so I don't want any underlines. When it's active, the dark green and white. This is the active here. I'm not using it in this menu over here, didn't put one. Here I am, I got rid of it. So that's what the active means, is green. Basically, I'm saying, look, do whatever you want, but this one, we're gonna call it active. We can call it whatever we want, by the way, call it whatever we want. And but for that one, we're gonna leave it permanently. We're gonna use this a little more in our horizontal menu. Then when, again, here we go, when you're not active and you hover over, this is what you gotta do. So when you're not active and you hover over, boom, it changes the color. Only when not active and you hover over, you're gonna do that. And then you got your menu. And of course, another thing that I'm using here had not to do with CSS. I'm doing a style, right? You know, cascading styles. I'm doing margin left is 25%, and then I'm doing my paddings and my height. Now this here makes sure that my text doesn't go on that 25%. Right? I'm saying this margin is 25%, so don't go there. Stay on the right. That's what this is. That's what this is. I'm using, so over here is my first menu and the first 25%. This one's saying margin left 25%. And now, no matter what I do, my menu stays untouched. I got one more menu, my friends, and this one right here. And I'll show you what the menu looks like. It's a horizontal menu. Here's my menu. Here's how it changes. Not changing the text color, only the background of it. And this one always stays lit. Also, my cursor changes to the little hand. And here's my lorem ipsum. So to make this work like that, obviously we again, using a list, we get rid of the style, make my paddings, all that. We make an overflow hidden, meaning if it's bigger than what it should be, don't show it. That's what this means. And the background is gray. The LI, we make the float to the left. See this to the left? That means these items are going to float to the left. That's important. Now, when we go to the active, again, our text line center, paddings, and all that, text direction to nothing. But when I hover not active, again, this means when I'm going into something that is not active, change the dark color. That's this right there. It's a changing. And here's my active is green. Remember, active is green, which is that green. Now, why is this to the right? Well, because look at this. I'm putting the style equals float to the right. So no matter what this says, this one I want it on the right, and I want it all the time. And no matter what I do, it stays right there. All right. We've reached the end. I hope this video is not too long, but I hope you liked it. Again, the source code is there available on all the examples. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share it. It would mean a lot. So anyways, thank you. And I got one more tutorial on CSS, and I'll be jumping to probably JavaScript. I may take a break from the before JavaScript. I may do tutorials on or do some more Excel and Word and PowerPoint. But in the meanwhile, we're sticking with CSS. So until next time, remember, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.